Today it is the Agile journey part 2. I'll just quickly recap what we have discussed on the part 1. We talked about what is the difference between a Agile and waterfall model. We discussed what are the different Agile methodologies, and we mostly focused on the Scrum and definitions of the Scrum. What are the different Scrum team? What are their roles? And we went over the developers, what they are meant in Scrum, Scrum Master, what is their role, and the product owner, what is their role. So if you haven't seen my video, just watch the part 1 of it before proceeding this video. I'll provide a link with this as well. So we also spoke earlier about the Scrum events. We spoke about what is sprint planning, what is daily Scrum, sprint review, and sprint retrospective. These are all time boxed. We also spoke about what are the time boxed event means. That means that you have to complete that particular event or ceremonies within the maximum time allowed, and this is again based on 1 month sprint. Generally, the shorter the sprint, the shorter the time is recommended by the Scrum. There are other Scrum activities as well, like for example, backlog refinement, which is a part of every single sprint, I would say, because every time you start a sprint, your backlog should be refined and ready. So backlog refinement is not ideally the part of the sprint, but it goes on the Agile process. The product owner will refine the product backlog as and when he gets the time, as and when the developers comes to the product owner, our product owner gets time to clarify anything with the stakeholders or the business users. There is also a release planning that is done sometimes separately than the sprint planning. So release planning means after several sprint is done, if you want to release your product, your increment to the production, you can have a release planning, but remember, this is not a Scrum defined time boxed event. So release planning is a completely different thing than the sprint planning, which is a time boxed event, and every sprint should follow that ceremonies. We will also talk about the product goal versus sprint goal. So product goal is something that overall product vision or goal that we want to achieve. It is a long-term vision or the final destination, so you can say. Whereas the sprint goal is a short-term vision. It is meant for the developer for targeting the end result of a particular sprint of 2 weeks or 4 weeks, what is the time frame you are running the sprint for. So product goal is like a long-term vision which will guide, and it will be a kind of a sprint goal will be kind of subset of the product goal, so that if you summarize or sum it up actually all the sprint goals, you will finally get the product goal as a complete final product. So next big topic is the definitions of done. I would focus more on the definitions of done because it is a very important concept and in the Scrum itself. The definition of done is a formal description of the state of the increment when it meets the quality measure required for the product. So for example, if you are doing a project in the software industry and you want to make sure that your quality of the code is right, you are following all the standard that your organization need to follow. For example, you need to do the unit testing, integration testing, or any kind of regression testing as part of your development. As well as you might need to do the security review, your SonarQube code quality gateway needs to pass. So all this comes under the definitions of done. It is more than your standard story acceptance criteria, where it is only comply with your business requirement or functional requirement, but here the definitions of ensure that the quality is met. So definitions of done creates a transparency by providing everyone a shared understanding of what work was completed as part of the increment. So for example, there are 2 teams of working, and then one team is following all these standards and then they are delivering a very quality product, whereas the other team is skipping it and then delivering is faster. Then there will be a problem because the team who is doing or not following with the definitions of done will end up having a technical debt later on, and the maintenance will be a nightmare. So it is a standard and every team needs to follow. So it is the organization standard in general, but sometimes the organization standard might not be there, or the Scrum team can add on more to the organization standard to make their own definitions of done. If there are multiple Scrum team working together on the same product, they define the same definitions of done, because remember, the product owner of a product is ultimately responsible of the product value. So he or she needs to ensure that the definitions of done made in all of his team, so which is multiple Scrum team. But the Scrum team, which are the developers in a Scrum, they follow the definitions of done. Product owner has no responsibility to dictating the developers, but everybody's responsibility is to follow the definitions of done, so that there is no gap later on, or there is no technical debt later on which can cause a degraded product. So today's discussion is only this. I will come up with more terminology that is used in Scrum. So keep watching this space. Thank you.